how to go from this to this using MacroFactor and a lot of consistent work. Let's get it. I have listened to Eric and Greg's Stronger by Science podcast for ages, and when Greg gave me the opportunity to trial MacroFactor, I was super honored. MacroFactor basically works on the premise that changes in body mass over time reflect changes in stored chemical energy in the body, which is directly linked to energy balance. The energy balance is the difference between energy consumed and energy burned. So basically when you start the app and answer all the questions, the app will calculate your basal metabolic rate using the Cunningham equation, plus a few changes to the equation that the team did. From that point onwards, you want to be logging your weight as often as possible and logging your food as accurately as possible so that the app can learn from your data and provide a more accurate energy expenditure. And I'll explain soon why energy expenditure is so important for this app. MacroFactor has some really neat features that really separate it from the competition, like for example, weight trend. As the name implies, this cool little graph will show you how your weight is trending day to day, week to week, and it will give you a much more normalized view of where your weight is heading to and if you're tracking well against your goals. As you might know, scale weight data tends to be quite noisy. There are a few days that you weigh yourself, you're like super fucking heavy, maybe might be water retention, might be too much undigested food in your digestive tract. There's so many variables. So instead of getting stuck on that one scale value, all you have to do is to look at the trend instead. For me, that's great for peace of mind. Then you have expenditure. Energy expenditure is calculated based on caloric intake and the change in trend weight. The algorithm will work out how much energy you're spending every day based on the food you're logging in and the change in your weight, and based also on your goals, like for example, weight gain or weight loss. So you will be able to adjust your nutrition recommendation with every check-in. What I really like about how MacroFactor calculates this energy expenditure is that the algorithm is pretty fair with how it calculates things if you're not tracking your food or weight perfectly every single day, which is really me. My weekends are pretty busy with my kids, out and about eating rubbish, so it's pretty common that I don't track the food at all. And even on those days that I don't track at all, the app will do a pretty good job of gathering all the data it has about you in the last days and still provide a fairly decent energy expenditure estimation. It's important to keep that energy expenditure as accurate as possible because it is from that number that the app will be able to recommend how much you should be eating to hit your goal. For example, imagine you were on a cut diet for many weeks, and what will naturally happen is that your body will decrease its metabolism and NEAT, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's a mechanism that the body has to protect itself because you're basically starving yourself to death, or really that's what the body thinks. So MacroFactor needs to be recalculating your energy expenditure and updating your macros so that you keep losing weight so that you can hit your goal. Now, one weak point on MacroFactor is that if you partially log your food, for example, you just log your breakfast in a given day, this will really throw off the algorithm and mess up with the energy expenditure calculation. So it's best not to log the day at all. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if an app has a poor user experience, I'm very likely to uninstall it. I just don't have the patience for badly designed apps. Of all the food logger apps and macro calculation apps that I've used in the past, MacroFactor, the best one of all, hands down. For example, when you're setting your goal for weight gain in the app, you will see a green little bar where they recommend you to be in. In this case, it goes up to 1% of body weight increase per month. You get those little informations across the app for a lot of the actions you're trying to do. You can collapse a bunch of foods that were added at the same time and make it into a plate. This makes it easier to visualize your day and what you've eaten. And then you can even add that plate as a recipe if you want. Also, little things like there are mini tutorials through the app to get you to understand better the logic behind everything and really to be more invested in your own journey. Their micronutrient breakdown screen is second to none. If you are a micronutrient freak like I am, you'll really enjoy reading your day in review screen and looking at those values. Alright, so at the beginning of the video I showed you a before photo and an after photo of myself. The before photo was when I had just started using Carbon Diet app about 1.5 years ago, and the after photo was done about a month ago, November 2022. Without a doubt, both apps helped me reach my current physique, but there's one thing that both apps are lacking that, in my humble opinion, was really detrimental to where I am today. And I only got to know these things after reading the book, The Renaissance Diet 2.0 by Dr. Marcus Rattel. You see, for years, at least 5 or 6 years, I have been following the if it fits your macro approach. An app will tell me, hey, you want to get to 190 pounds in 12 months, and based on all the information you provided, like gender, age, activity levels, you need to eat this much protein, this much carbs, this much fat. And then my approach was just to hit those macros every day, and I wouldn't focus on meal timing at all or meal frequency, for example. Sometimes I would have a huge breakfast, a smaller lunch, and a huge dinner. To me, it really didn't matter as long as I was hitting my daily macro. But what I noticed over the years, at least for me, is that this practice was just not giving me the results I wanted in terms of body composition. And look, my main goal was to be as shredded as I could be, basically. And honestly, that was just not happening. Now, meal timing has 6 distinct components. 1, number of meals during the day, which is really important for insulin sensitivity, a topic that I don't think is very much discussed and can be important for overall health, wellness, and the ability to build muscle. 2, meal spacing. 3, meal size. 4, meal macros. This one was an interesting one for me, and after a lot of reading, I started playing with carbs around the peri-workout window and more fats in the evening before going to bed. 5, meal composition, and 6, meal timing around my workouts. And also another thing that I really focused in the last 1 year is basically foods that have great digestibility for me. We are all different, so some foods that are great for me maybe are not great for you, and vice versa. So I did a lot of experimentation and journaling to find out the foods that work for me best and to avoid foods that are just not working for me. So in all honesty, I think that after I implemented what I learned in Dr. Mike's book, along with the effective macro calculations that MacroFactor provides, this really got me where I am today. So this is what I would like to see in MacroFactor in the future. The app could ask the user something like, what is your ultimate goal in using this app? And then you have someone who would just say, hey, I just want to lose some weight, I'm chill about all this stuff. And on the other hand, you have someone that will be saying, I want to be competition ready, just like Eric Drexler. So now the app needs to work out a much more in-depth plan for this second person. Something like, okay, we're going to start with a gain phase, then depending where you are in terms of body composition at the end of that phase, we will go to a mini cut or standard cut phase. Then we're going to go to a 4 weeks maintenance because I need you to recover from that cut phase physiologically and psychologically before starting it all over again until we get you to that competition ready state. And of course, I'd like to see the app suggesting meal timings, including meal macros that work around the workout window that you have set in the app. So for example, the app will go and say, right, you told me that you work out every day at midday, so at 11 a.m. I need you to eat 20 grams of protein, 5 grams of fat, and 30 grams of a simple carb. I might be tripping here thinking that you can actually do all this through an app, but if the MacroFactor team can pull this off, I really think this would be a gold mine. Thank you so much, Greg, for giving me access to your app. It has without a doubt helped me in my fitness journey, and I cannot wait to see what another year of 80% consistency will give me. Catch you guys on the next one.